Hello and welcome to another episode of Staying Power, a show that is all about building a better life. And we want a better life, you want a better life, everyone wants a better life. And this is a place where you can find out once a week some ways in which you can build a better life. We hope that what we talk about this week and every week resonates with you and hope to give you some practical tips on how you can do some of these things in your life to make it better. By we, I mean myself. I am JDK Winnikin, and my lovely co-host from across from me is the beautiful, amazing, smart, articulate, fantastic, business-minded, and overall amazing person. What do I call you? The straw that stirs the drink?
Yes.
Ashley Kniebel. Hi, Ashley.
Hi. Thank you for all that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. How are you?
You know, in this season, I am fully embracing the chaos and the craze and the excitement and hopefully some rest.
There you go. So you're surfing the wave of the holiday season rather than trying to swim underneath it.
I mean, whatever. I'm just taking it as
You're just taking it as it is. Yeah, it's kind of the way to go.
Yeah.
Good. Well, it's good to see you. And of course, coming off of last week's 100th episode, here we are starting the second 100, right? Episode 101.
Yeah, we're in our next generation of
I know. The next
episodes.
Next round. You know, episode 101 sounds almost just as cool as 100. It's kind of cool. All right. Anyway, maybe that's just me. I think that's just me. Anyway, Ashley, this week, this is, you mentioned last week that we can pull topics from anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's one of the great things about this show. This is a new one for us. We haven't kind of gone in this direction before, and this is kind of a fun one. What we're going to talk about today is the importance of spending time with the elders in our life, seniors in our life, whether that's our older parents, relatives, people that we know, people in our communities. And at this time of year, the holidays, when a lot of people are getting together, when a lot of people are catching up, when a lot of intergenerational communication and time together is happening, it seemed like a good topic because this came up for you, Ashley. Do you want to share with everybody how this came to mind for you?
I can do that. And as you said, this is actually where we get a lot of our topics is we just live life. Yep. And it's interesting when you really stop to think about things of like, oh, that is so impactful. And it seems so ordinary and ordained because it was just like a piece of our day that just happened amongst all the other pieces of the day. But anyways, why this came about is I had the lovely opportunity to go shopping with my mom recently. And I don't get to see my mom as much anymore because my life has substantially taken off in many directions. And she lives about 35, 38-ish minutes away. So it's not like too bad, but it is a little bit far out. And usually our schedules are not always jiving and so on and so forth. So we made a deal that we were going to get together and have some lunch and go shopping and whatnot. And that's always been one of her favorite pastimes with me. And I mean, I love it because who doesn't love time with mom and clothes? So it was good. And probably because it's been a bit of time since her and I have done that. My mom has just hit 70 years old. And it is so weird to say that because I remember when my mom was turning 40. I was very young, obviously. But I remember when I was like, wow, she's turning 40. And now I'm like, I look at her and forever she was never aging.
Yeah, right.
It just seemed like she was just mom,
view.
Yes, from a kid's view. And now as I'm an adult and I'm in my younger growth years, I'm still like, every once in a while I see something I'm like, oh, that's a sign of aging. Okay. But I'm still young. But I like looked at my mom and I was like, love you, mom. I'm like, she's an older lady now. She's not just my mom that's in her mid years. She's like in that older generation and not like she's totally losing it or anything. But there are little things that I noticed that are not the same anymore. And I just had like a level of love and care about her that I feel like I haven't had before. And it just was like, if you only see your mom ever so often, like a few times a year, however many years she has left, that's how many more times you're going to see her.
Right.
And when you think about that type of stuff, and I'm like, wow, people who don't have family that live nearby, maybe they live in another state and they only see them twice a year. Yeah. You might only see those people 10 more times.
Right.
Depending on how it is. And that was just a really kind of like a sobering thought. It's like, wow, like this is somebody that raised me, that dedicated their entire life to me and my brother. And this is somebody I really care about. And I was like, when was the last time I really stopped to let her know that I care and that she's been an important person in my life for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to take for granted. Like they're always going to be there.
Right. Yeah. And there does come a time in life where you start to see that. And it sounds like you ran into it. And what's interesting about this, and I'll share this with listeners and viewers, that Ashley and I talked last week about what we call the principle, right? When she's driving, the principle is she calls me because, you don't drive actually all that often. You're pretty landlocked most of your days, but she calls me, and you called me on your way to this and said, yeah, I'm going to see my mom. I haven't seen her in a while. We're going to go shopping and that type of thing. And then a couple hours later, I get this text out of nowhere. And this happens a lot this is how our topics come about. She said, I think I have a topic for a future show and the importance of spending time with our elders. And I could tell just in that moment, it was like, okay, something profound happened here. Some sort of realization or some sort of connective point. And when we talked about it a little later, it occurred to me as like, okay, this is perfect for right now. Let's just do this.
Sure.
Let's just make it. Let's not shelve it. Let's just do it right now. Yeah, I know how you feel. Everything you've said, I can relate to. My parents are both 80, or my dad's about to turn 80 next month. My mom turned 80 earlier this year. And that has been something for a while now as they get older, and health challenges increase. My dad's had both of his knees replaced. My mom has always had chronic asthma, and she has some immunity challenges and things like that. These are all things that affect them, and slow them down, and it can be frustrating for them. And yet I can still see the parents I always knew, right? I can still hear them. In many ways, they're the same. In some ways, they're very different. They've grown a lot. Their wisdom has increased. Their enjoyment of life has increased. And I think their appreciation of the what we call the small joys that I think are actually much bigger than that has increased. But my sister and I both notice it. I see my parents probably every few weeks. They don't live too far away, not even an hour away from where we are. My sister's in Colorado. She only sees them a few times a year. My parents are getting old enough now that traveling out there is more of a challenge. And so it's kind of becoming this thing where my sister has to come here more often than not. And she, she's got a full life. So when she comes out, it's a handful of months, and, she'll communicate with me. She's like, okay, anything I should know, that type of thing. But she always notices differences.
Oh,
changes,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. And that can be a challenge, right? Because, and this is the thing that's not going to surprise anybody who's can relate to what we're talking about or are close in age to the people we are talking about. We're all thinking about mortality, right? And the impermanence of things. So the importance of your experience of spending time, I'm wondering, does it fill you with a sense of urgency, curiosity, commitment? Like, are you thinking of things like, I've never asked my mom before. I would like to find out more of these things. Like, what's that engendered in you, this realization?
It was more just realization of where she is at. And I know I've always been very important to her. I've been kind of one of the pillars of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, now that I've got a little older, I've started to pay more attention to just how much I mean to her. And if there's a period of time where she doesn't hear from me, or if she feels like we're not as close, to me, it has an impact, but it's not as seemingly impactful because I got a lot of things going on in my life, right?
Sure.
Like I have a very full life. Like your sister has a full life. I have a full life. You have a full life. My mom's life isn't as full with as many things. And so the impact of going a few days without talking to me is small, to her is like huge.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I mean, I know I'm great, but I'm like, but why is that? Like, she's got other things going on. And then it just kind of hit me that she has such a deep love for my brother and I. And, and there are things that I start to see. Like I said, I start to see little changes and stuff. And I'm like, I want to be able to remember good moments with my mom. And I want to remember them because I had them. And you can't have them unless you do them.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of memories growing up with her and like through my younger 20s and into my early 30s. But I'm like, she's going to be like a really old lady someday. And I'm like, I want to be able to still have a good relationship with her while she's still sound and aware.
Right.
For her benefit also, not just mine.
Sure. One of the things that gerontologists and psychologists talk about a lot for people who are getting older is their experience of what's called quiet sidelining, where as they get older, generally speaking, society doesn't ask as much from them, and as a result, doesn't necessarily see them as much, or at least that can be the feeling. And I do think that's true, right? But that can be really tough. I had a really profound moment a few years ago with my dad when he was getting his second knee replaced, and he really needed it for his comfort level, and it's been a good thing that he's done it. But we were talking about just, he expressed a moment of, said something about being old, and because I was in a mode like you're in now, where I'm like, I should ask him about these things. And I said, all I said was, it's got to be tough. And he goes, yeah, people forget old people don't have manuals on what it means or how it feels to be old. Mm-hmm. We might have some thoughts on earlier in life, but we don't have the answers either. Like when you're thinking, what is it like to be old? We're going through it and we can't necessarily make meaning of it. He says, I look in the mirror and I see that my body doesn't match my spirit. I still feel young, but then my body, I look at it and it tells me I'm not. Mm-hmm. And that was like a smack on the forehead for me. I was like, oh man, there is no manual for that, And so now you and I are using the example of parents, and we are fortunate that we're connected to our parents and close to them. I realize there are listeners who don't have those relationships with their parents. Mm-hmm. However, what we're talking about can expand to elders in any way, right? Whether you work with some, whether you volunteer in places, whether they're in your church or in your community groups, whatever the case may be, the importance of not just for them, we're going to talk about that, the importance for them of continuing connection and being seen so they don't feel quietly sidelined, but also the benefits for us, right? It's real easy to say, yeah, we learn from the wisdom of our elders. Yes, but that gets said so often that I think these days it just kind of flies by as accepted wisdom that we don't necessarily intentionally act on. But one of the gifts that I have been given so many times when I actually sit down and ask questions of my parents or people who are older, I get the most profound answers that never cease to amaze me and have me go, oh my goodness, I'm glad I'm hearing this now and not 20 years from now, right? Mm-hmm. That kind of thing.
Well, people have, like you said, that I think that's a really good point to make, that the quiet sidelining of them.
Because it's real fear and it's a real thing.
You see it a lot. Like older people are ones that are generally overlooked. They're not spoken to as much. People kind of like, ugh, that old person or whatever. They're less willing to help them out. And I don't really know necessarily why that happens. If younger generations see them as less valuable because they're not as young and fun and whatever. However, older people have seen so much.
Yeah.
Like they carry so much knowledge and wisdom with them. And they can really help you a lot if you're willing to connect with them. I see a lot of old people.
Yeah, you do.
I work with
a
lot of old people, and I work with a lot of older people that are in a period of time where it's really scary for them because things are changing in their world all of a sudden, and a lot of those changes are outside of their control, and now they're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And
they feel unsafe and vulnerable.
They do. And some of them have kids to help them out. Some of them don't. And they're, asking me questions and like guidance on certain things and whatnot, and how can I best help them? And I want to help them because I'm like, I can't imagine being an older person that is struggling to keep up with the world where it's at right now.
Yeah.
And they don't have a choice. They have to.
Yeah.
But they don't have a lot of things to go off of because the world is so different from the time when they were continually learning.
Yeah.
They've kind of quit learning, right? They're kind of at the end where they're just coasting through life, and they're not allowed to coast anymore.
Yeah, and that slowing down of things, right? It's it's a natural part of how our bodies age, right? Things slow down, things limit, and that's why it's so important for them early on, before those advanced years come, to make sure they're really investing in the things that can kind of help that stretch out for as long as possible, as much as possible. There's a few things, I looked up a few things to help with this, to just kind of highlight this, and I'll be interested in your responses. I'll just hit these really quickly. A number of studies have shown, medical studies, that social isolation and loneliness in older adults significantly increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, depression, dementia, and premature death. The U.S. Surgeon General just a few years ago noted that social disconnection carries mortality risks on par with smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day if somebody is socially disconnected in the elderly years. That's how important it is. Yeah. And then some meta-analytic work shows people with stronger social relationships as they get older have about a 50% higher likelihood of survival into later years compared to those with weaker social ties. Mm-hmm. Now, that can mean family, that can mean community, that can be church, that could be, community groups, whatever, sewing circles, who knows what it might be.
Sewing circles.
Sure. Cigar clubs, bridge clubs.
Band, like your mom.
All those things. Yeah, my mom's in a garage band, she's 80. It's awesome, right? But also, and aging in the brain, just a few others before our first break. Obviously, as lifespans go on, the risk of cognitive decline to things towards like Alzheimer's disease increase, which is why in the last 10 years or so, researchers have focused on what are modifiable behaviors that can stave that off, right? And so good social connections are right up there with activities to keep the brain sharp and active as most important. So I don't know what your parents do. My dad plays Sudoku every single day. My dad reads, like he wants to read every single book on the face of the planet before the day's over. If he doesn't know something, he looks it up on Google, to the point now that when he says, let's look it up, we call it kenning. That's his name is Ken. So looking up something on Google, he's going to ken it, right? He's going to look it up, and then he's going to read us the answer, right?
Wow.
That kind of thing. They do that. My mom knits, right? And really intricate stuff.
Circle.
Right. She knits, and she's really intricate on that. She does scrapbooking and helps other people, scrapbook and do those kinds of things, creating memories, doing storytelling, helping people connect and do creative work. And it really benefits them both, right, with those things. But increased social connection matters as well. There's more of those that we'll get to. But right now, let's take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're kind of going to build on this. And we do want to talk about the importance for them. But I also think it's important for us to recognize the importance of those things for us, right? And then we'll finish up the show with some practical ways that we can do that.
And our second segment.
Oh, yes. And we will do our weekly segment. This week is 2 Minutes of Terror. We will do that a little later in the show. So stick around. All right, we'll be right back here on Staying Power.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. Let their story unfold and gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. Hire skills first. Learn why at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diaspora, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diaspora offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diaspora Show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
Wherever you go, Alternative Talk 1150 is here for you.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley. And
Hi.
We are talking about the importance of spending time with the elders in our life, whether we're talking about older parents or people in our communities, our circles. And we left off talking a little bit about why social connection in particular is so important for people as they enter later in life. And, I left off talking about my folks. My folks live in a place now that is for 55 and over people, and they all build houses and they have clubhouses to, all these activities. They got so many social connections, I can't even keep up with them anymore, which is awesome, right? I absolutely love that for them, and it's really cool to be a part of that. But I mentioned, Ashley, before the break, a couple, some scientific studies. I had a couple more points I wanted to make on this. I found this really interesting. Gerontologists now talk about the importance of intergenerational contact. And that is, of course, deliberate things meant to bring together people of different generations, right? And that can be holidays if it's in the family, but it can also be different events, volunteering, places of worship, those kinds of things. And studies have been done of this, that for both people who are older and younger generations who engage in these types of activities, there are consistent improvements across the board, but particularly for older adults in their overall mental health, their sense of social inclusion, their sense of active aging, which means aging with a purpose, and reductions in their sense of being singled out for their age, ageism, and increased empathy among the younger participants and the older for the younger.
Really?
Right. How often do we hear, the jokes about, old people going, get off my lawn, right? These younger people, they don't know anything today, right? And then younger people just being like, oh, they don't know anything, that type of thing. This type of thing is actually proven to help everybody.
Interesting.
Right.
Wow.
Which is cool. And it kind of reflects also with, this is kind of a larger universal truth. I mean, people have been talking about the importance of elders since the written word was ever first put down.
Yeah.
Right. So like, for example, Confucius talked about respect for elders as, quote, the root of goodness, and that it was a moral duty to, quote, trust and love the past and those who embody it. And he meant by that the elders. The Hebrew Bible says, quote, rise in the presence of the aged, honor the elderly, right? And Abraham Joshua Heschel once said, a test of a people is how it behaves towards the old. The affection and care for the old, the incurable, and the helpless are the true gold mines of a culture. And just resonates a lot with me. And I say this as somebody who has to take a look at this myself, right? Because we do get wrapped up in our own lives. And certainly my parents, your parents, don't say don't have a life, right? They want us to do that. And also, I'm like you. I want to make sure that I'm helping them have the life that they want. And they want a life connected with their kids, right? So I want to do that. All right. So, okay. So what happens when generations sit together with this? Let's talk about that.
All right.
Okay. So this is kind of a new, I won't say a new discovery. I think you've known this for a while, but it clearly what happened the other day with you and your mom really impacted you with that. So based on everything I just said, how would you apply all that to what you're learning, what you're experiencing? What do you think?
Well, that's a good thought. I mean, in that moment, I don't know, it was so different from all the other moments I've spent with her. And maybe it had been because I hadn't spent just time with her one-on-one. I've done a lot of family events where there's been a lot of people. My mom's been there, whatnot. What happens when different generations sit together? I think at least the ways I've connected with my mom in the past is usually we've done like puzzles together if we're over at the house,
My sister and dad do that.
Yeah.
I don't have the patience for it.
You don't?
I don't. Anyway, go ahead. I don't want to rob your story.
I love puzzles. But I'm really fast at puzzles. Like my mom
really?
always jokes, like if I get talking, I don't know what it is. Like I do so well generally putting puzzles together.
Oh,
that
wow.
She's like, I don't know why I even try. And I'm like, I leave a few pieces there for her to
wow, actually, that's
purpose.
amazing.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just something like working with my hands, I guess. But we've done that. We've built Legos together. We've done like art projects and things together. And it really does help bridge that gap between her life and mine because our lives are so different and on so many different pages. And this can be applied to not just a family member, because like we said, some people don't have older family members, right? But you just might have somebody that's a neighbor or somebody that you see periodically that you can connect with that person too if you open the invitation. And it may seem odd in your perspective, in your eyes, to reach out to that older person and offer, do you want to go to coffee? Do you want to go for a walk in the park? Do you want to, like, whatever it might be? It might just be a small gesture. And for us, it might seem weird because if we were to ask a stranger of our same age, they would be like, what?
Yeah.
But an older person that probably doesn't have that asked of them very often, to have a younger person say, like, I see you and I want to spend time with you. I find value in you. Would you like to join me?
Yeah.
Could be wildly impactful for that person.
Yeah.
And I've seen it when I've had my mom tell me stories of like younger people that she knew. It was like her hairstylist, I think, obviously younger person, and reached out to my mom once and asked how she was doing because my mom was like going through something, and she reached out to her and she's like, that meant so much that she thought of me and asked, because they do kind of get kind of like, I'm sure they have, they've lived their life.
Right.
And so I'm sure they're tired and they're kind of done and whatnot. But I think inviting people into that space where you can share and get to know them in some sort of way, it's a gift for yourself that you don't realize you're getting.
Yeah.
And it's a gift to them that you probably don't realize you're giving.
That was really well said. You need to write
thanks.
that down. Yes, to everything you just said. And, to share some different stories about it. A couple of weeks ago, I shared, I think in a 2 minutes of triumph, that my longest standing childhood friend surprisingly ended up in town not too long ago. And 15-hour layover because of the government shutdown at the time. And he said, and I just happened to have the day free and was able to do that. And I drove him down to see my folks.
Oh, nice.
And he was excited. He said, I haven't seen him in a long time. And he said something similar to what you said. There's only so many opportunities you're going to have. And the thing is, my parents are old enough now that they know that, right? And his parents know that. And I said at the time on that episode a couple weeks ago that my mom and his mom effectively helped raise me and my sister and him and his siblings. And I'll not forget when we got there, he and I had talked for a few hours and got up and he went in the door first. And his hugs to my parents went on forever. And it wasn't like one was like just waiting for the other one to be done. It was genuinely like that. And I watched it and I went, oh my gosh. And I thought if I was in Hawaii and I was seeing his parents, it'd be the exact same thing. And in fact, the last time I'd seen them 7 years ago, it's exactly what it was like.
Nice. And
ever since then, my folks have talked about that visit. It was only for a few hours. We went to lunch, just quickly catch up, talk about things, but it was so important to them to have that. And I remember my mom saying after he left, oh, it was so nice to see him. She said, it's so delightful to see the kind of man he's grown into. Right. And I said, well, Mom, you had a role in that. And she said, yeah, I guess I did. And that feels good too, And so that was just kind of cool. Like for my parents to know that this person from across the ocean still, we haven't spent a lot of time with them since we moved 40 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yet it's still that kind of deep connection. I know it meant a lot to him. So those things, yes. And what that does is it certainly helps me appreciate the relationships I already have. And one of my first, statements to my friend after we left my folks and was driving back to the airport was, okay, now it's my turn. I've got to get down there. I got to come out and see you, and I got to come see your folks because they're so important, and there's only so much time left. So it's kind of like, you can use the time you're with them, whether it's you get to see them a lot or not very often, or if it's an intentional moment of inviting them, you can use that time or you can lose that time. And I'd rather use it so that when that time does come, that I can look back and go, man, I intentionally got as much as I could and gave them as much as I could, so that when that time comes, ideally they look back at these later years in life and go, you know what? Life was still really good then. That's what I would want for them.
That's really special.
Yeah. So, you can feel this one.
Yeah, it's a good one. As you were talking about your parents, I had something else kind of come to mind, and it's about not a family member, a much older gentleman that I have gotten to know. I'm pretty sure he's in like his early 90s, actually, maybe mid 90s. Looking at him, you would not think so. Not at all. You would think maybe like 82. But
okay.
He takes very good care of himself. And I remember the first moment I met him, and it was in one of my moments where I was like, it was the end of a Friday. It was like 4:30, and I had already put in I think it was 65 hours that week. And I was like, I am so done, and I am beyond burnt. There's nothing good here.
Right.
I need to go home and sleep and shut off and whatever.
You're done.
I'm so done. And I had gone into my office and I left the door open and I was putting some stuff away, getting ready to leave. And I hear the door open and I was like, oh,
grinding your
why did I leave that door open? And this very old man comes walking in, and long story short, he needed my help. And he's like, yeah, I looked up your office, and he lives in Seattle. And so he's like, I used my GPS tracker in my car, which I'm like, is not the Google Maps on our cell phone.
Right,
it's
right.
probably the old giant Garmin one that's stuck to the windshield, is my guess. And he's like, I have been sitting outside your office waiting for you to arrive. And he was like so sweet. And I've gotten to know him a little bit more since that one encounter. And there is something really endearing. I'm like, I would love nothing more than to go to like coffee with this person, because you can tell that he's so full of stories and he is so full of life.
Yeah.
He might move really slow and he might be a little wrinkly and he might talk really slow, but you can tell there's so much good there.
He might have cracked the code, is what we're saying, right? You want to talk to people who crack the code, like good life.
Yeah.
You're in your mid-90s. You're in good shape. You're still rolling.
And it was cute. He told me, he's like, yeah, it was very strange the other day. My fitness center called me. And I was like, they did? And he's like, yeah, I hadn't worked out there in a couple of days. And so they called to see how I was doing. And in my mind, I'm like, they're probably still making sure you're alive. But they were calling to check on him. And it meant so much to him that he's like, they called to see how I was. He's like, I went back the next day and I went, and he does his workouts. He's like 95.
Yep.
And I'm like,
it's amazing.
I'm like, you know what? I would have missed a huge gift had I not had that encounter with him, but had I not really paused and did the JD thing and took a breath and then pause and calmed myself down, settled. But instead I could have been like, oh, sorry, like you're going to have to come back tomorrow. Or like I could have. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to help this man. and it has given so much back to me. And so I would encourage people when you're in that moment to give it a chance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, it reminds me of a guy that I, probably about a year ago, older guy, probably in his 80s, who was just coming into the gym, and he was walking around with one of the trainers. And the trainer was showing him the equipment and things like this. And I was kind of doing my own workout, but I was also fascinated. It was like, okay, sometimes you see people come to the gym, they're coming off of surgery, they're coming off of something, they're rehabbing an injury. You see that quite a bit at the club I go to. This guy didn't seem to have any of that, right? And so the trainer asks him, so, okay, this is what we're doing. So why are you interested in doing this? And he goes, I don't know. I never really worked out when I was younger, and I know it would be benefit for me, and I have no idea what it would do for me. So I figure I would just try it. And he said, and the guy the trainer just kind of looked at him and went, okay, that's great. He said, do you have some goals in mind? And the guy looked him right in the eye and said, I'd like to learn how to do a pull-up. I've never done a pull-up before. And I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And so the guy explained to him, said, well, if you want to do a standing pull-up, says that might take some time, just in your body weight. And we'll have to take a look and make sure that's safe for you. He says, but if you want the experience of it, we have the weighted pull-up machine, right, where you add the weights to make it a little bit easier. He says, we can do one right now. You would have thought somebody had just given this guy a new car, right? Or a trip around the world, right? Or, gift certificate to his favorite restaurant for the rest of his life. He said, absolutely yes. By this point, 4 or 5 people are watching this guy, all pausing their workouts, right? Some big muscle heads, these young kids just paying attention. We all watch this guy go over to the weighted machine, and the guy shows him and helps him get up on it, right? Lowers the bench down so he can get on, and he pulls the pull-up, full weight, gets all the way up, and he gets to the top, and as he gets to the top, you hear him go, oh boy! And it was one of the greatest moments I have ever seen in that club, or just this joy of life. And to me, I mean, when he was done and he went about his workout,
a round of applause.
Yeah, it was everybody was smiling,
sure,
laughing. One woman nearby just said, "Okay, that's the coolest thing I've seen in a long time," and we all kind of shared that moment with that. But it reminded me of the importance of, for people, yes, of course, that age, but for all of us, that's lifelong learning. That's continued curiosity. The example you used, the curiosity that guy had to figure out GPS, whether it was the old one or not, right? He figured it all out. That lifelong learning component. And then for us to see it, I know for me in that moment, I was like, okay, I want to have that kind of joy with figuring this out. And to this day, that guy is in the gym almost every single time I go in.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Is he doing pull-ups?
I haven't seen him do any pull-ups, but I hear him talk about it. He's like, my balance is better. My strength is better. I sleep better. All these things. Yeah. He's still going.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool.
What a fun story.
It challenges those types of things. They challenge stereotypes. They reduce ageism. They make them more relatable, right? More likely for us to engage with them. And for the things that we take for granted, the trip to the grocery store, the trip to the coffee shop, the trip over to the medical office, whatever it might be, the things that we just go, I got to do that. I got to interact with that person. For older people, those are big moments because oftentimes their ability to go through life has become more limited. So those are huge. So if we're on the receiving end of those, we can be aware of, okay, what I'm taking is just an everyday interaction. For them could be gold today. So why not just do that?
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
That's such a sweet story.
Isn't that cool? Yours is too. That's a really great. You should ask that guy to have coffee and just watch his head like spin around like, wow.
I might.
Oh, and he'll be like, oh, this beautiful woman's asking me for
So
fees.
he's like, oh, it's Ashley. She's such a pretty lady.
Exactly. Exactly. See?
That's like 4 times my age.
That's awesome. And that's
cute.
All right, that's cute. All right. All right, let's take a break here on Staying Power. When we come back, we will have our weekly segment. This week it is the 2 Minutes of Terror, and we'll also talk about a little more of some of these ideas of engagement between generations, because it benefits all of us. All right, so we'll be back in just a minute.
Hey, are you driving high right now? You might be, because a whole lot of people do. They say marijuana makes them a better driver, more careful, more focused. That's probably what the guy who killed a 4-year-old thought. And now, he's in prison. You see, no matter what you tell yourself, if you feel different, you drive different. So if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Chris Erdman. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs, creative minds, and game changers to uncover the real stories behind their business. On my show, Made of More, we explore the challenges that they've overcome, the breakthroughs that they've celebrated, and the mindset that drives them forward. If you're ready to unlock your full entrepreneurial potential, Made of More is the show for you, because here we know you are made of more. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW.
Conversation you won't find on the rest of the dial. Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hello.
And we're talking about the importance of intergenerational experience, spending time with our elders, learning from them and giving to them. And the gist of it is so far is when these generations spend time together, elders get a sense of purpose, a sense of protection and belonging. Younger people, we get perspective, emotional ballast, really, if you want. It becomes a resilience practice and a life appreciation for everybody. And this isn't just because we're saying it, but science proves it. Okay, before we continue with that and we start talking about practical things like we always do in the final segment of the show, it is time for our weekly segment, 2 minutes, where Ashley and I each talk about something from our past week and what we learned from it. Because, of course, this is all about vulnerability and being known. Here we go. It is 2 minutes of terror.
What in the world?
That was great. Nice job, Nathan.
Gosh, nice.
Our engineer, Nathan, is having a field day with the sound drops. This is great. Okay.
Fantastic.
Nice job. All right. Ashley, what's your terror?
You know what? It is mid-holiday season, and I'm feeling that little like crunch of, do I take a break? Do I take this quiet time to work on things at the office? Where do I spend this? Because this is always a conundrum I feel this time of year. I really would like to take a little time off and relax and rejuvenate myself, right? But then I'm like, but it's really quiet. No one will bother me. I can get so much done. And I'm stuck in that conundrum, and I'm not sure which way I'm going.
Not sure which way
to
you're
be honest
going.
with you. And the days are just ticking by. But
yeah, do you feel like you're not intentionally taking the time you need, that circumstances are dictating your choices?
Yes.
Can you change that in some way?
Kind of.
What would the change look like?
I would have to force close the office, which in my line of work is difficult end of year.
Right.
So it's the time when I should be the most open, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But it is the time when it's most appropriate because everyone else is taking time off. So that would make sense. Less, interaction with other people would be a good time to close. But
sounds like it's time to get creative with your agency.
Yeah.
That's a challenge, though. Yes, and knowing what your work is, that's a real thing.
Yeah, but that's okay. So little crunch. That's all.
So it's kind of like 2 minutes of discomfort.
Yeah, I guess.
Frustration.
Well, because it's also the same feeling of like, okay, what did I do last year? Did I like that? Not really. I'm on the same trajectory to do that again this year. So do I just go all in and do the whole work thing and really feel like I'm putting in some time? So when things do start to pick up again in the next year that I feel a little more prepared? Or do I take time and really stow all of that and really shut off and do whatever feels really good to fill my cup back up and start the new year?
You didn't ask, but I vote for the second one.
Oh, okay.
I vote for the second one.
Check the box.
Okay.
Okay.
All
What's
right.
yours?
My 2 minutes of terror goes to, I kind of had a rite of passage in my moonlighting job. I moonlight as a bartender. I've talked about it on the show before. And the rite of passage is the first time something really goes poorly.
Great story.
Yeah. I can't go into the details too much, but what I'll tell you is the first time I was the lead bartender when things got out of hand with some people who had been at the pub for a very long time. To be a bartender, you have to be, you're responsible for a lot of things. In particular, you're responsible for how many drinks you serve and when you cut people off, and monitoring who's drinking what, making sure people are of age, making sure people aren't causing problems for anybody else or each other, right, if they're in the same party. I had an experience this past week where all of those things all happened, causing trouble for each other at a very large party. And it was a very busy shift, a lot going on. We were keeping an eye on this group for quite some time, keeping an eye on how much they were drinking, all these things. Long story short, by the end of the night, I was on my own. They were still there. And I managed to get everything through the night without a problem. And they left and there were no problems inside. But then about 15 minutes after we closed, all hell broke loose outside. Police got involved. Ambulances got involved. It was rough. And, I'm trying to clean up a bar, get off shift at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm having to talk to the police. I'm having to do all this stuff. And it was unnerving, Ashley, because it was the first time I had experienced anything like that. It doesn't happen very often at this place, but it happened to me. And it shook me because I felt like this overwhelming responsibility for it, but also like, did I do something wrong? Did I handle this the way I should have? Should I have intervened earlier? All these should have. But what it needed, what was great about it was I talked with my coworkers, all of whom are a lot more experienced than me. And they all said, oh yeah, first time that always happens is horrible. It's horrible. It shakes you to your core. You don't feel like you're ever going to be right again. And I said, what would you do? First of all, just know it always happens and it always feels that way. And second, give it a few days, you'll feel a little better.
Do you feel better?
Enough, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Funny enough, actually, I distinctly remember this because when I called you on my way to go shopping with my mom, you were like 4 hours removed from getting off of your shifts. I think you were there till like 4 a.m.
Yeah, it was really early.
Yeah. It was like at like 10 o'clock in the morning when I called you, and your voice was like so deep and scratchy and groggy. And I was like, are you getting sick again? And you're like, no. And so you explain all this. It's like, it sounds like a rough night.
It was rough. But again, something that happens in that line of work. But on reflecting on it, I think I did pretty well in terms of handling that. And
to be fair, that is a very valid moment of terror because it has so many different factors that you are not able to control.
Absolutely.
It involves other people under an influence
Yep.
doing crazy things
Yep.
and not in their best state. And, and you'd never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're supposed to just handle it in the best way possible, not knowing what's going to come at you.
Right.
So, fortunate that it didn't happen inside, it happened outside after
Yeah.
close and whatnot.
Right.
But still,
Yep.
you had to be there. It was you, and that's scary stuff.
Exactly. And, I was reminded that that's always that way. And life is always that way. We have no idea what's going to come at us from any direction at any time. And this was unexpected there, just like unexpected things happen elsewhere in life. So anyway, that was mine.
Woo. Talk about a terror.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So anyway, all right. So let's talk, Ashley, in this last segment about, how to show up for our elders, but in a way that doesn't infantilize them.
Make them feel like an elder.
Make them feel like, that it's about their shared humanity, right? That recognizes, like I said, they don't have a handbook on this either.
Yeah.
Right? None of us do. So how do we do that? And so maybe we can just kind of ping pong these back and forth. Okay. So that the idea is, what are some concrete actions, some rituals, practices, pitfalls to avoid And this is a time of year where a lot of people are getting together with elders and we're going to be interacting. So you can try these out. And I think the approach that we should take with this, and the first one I would say is do it from a sense of connecting, from a sense of mutual benefit, not out of being nice or charity. Oh, I'm going to be nice to them because they have a hard time. Go into it with the intentionality of, I want to get something out of this. I want to learn. I want to listen. I want to share, whatever it might be. And I want to find out something new, like a story of something. My parents, when I ask them a story from something that I wonder about, they love it. And they go on, and I learn a ton, right? I learn a ton. That way they're not getting the sense of you're either trying to fix them or entertain them or entertain yourself.
Sure.
Right. So I think coming in from mutuality, not charity, is a good.
Oh, I think that's a really good point, actually. And I think something to dovetail with that, I would say, is, they're a little bit older, right? And they may not be able to do everything as they once were able to do, but don't just assume that they're incapable of doing things, of handling things, but maybe come at it of a supportive curiosity of like, would you like some help with that? Or can I help you with this? Similarly, how you would maybe with like a child who is trying to do something and you don't want to do it for them, but you want to help support them and to still give them some independence of like, oh, I can still handle things. And maybe they'll say like, oh no, can you just do it for me or whatever? And that's even better.
But not to assume that they
correct.
Need
Allow them to make that decision.
Right.
Gives them a lot more ability to, even though if they know they can't do it, the fact that you're giving them the opportunity tells them like, hey, I still see that you're capable. And if you choose not to, that's okay.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. I think one of the things that I think is really important, and several gerontologists who I've read their books have talked about, is making sure that, even in the big life decisions that they have to make around their health and that type of thing, asking that what kind of life do you want to have?
Their buy-in.
Yeah. What kind of life do you want to have in the latter years? Do you want to really push for longevity, even if you're getting sick and you want to just stay as long as you can so you can be with family, you can be with friends for as long as possible? Or do you want quality, whereas perhaps some things that you could do to prolong your life if you get ill, you don't want to do? Giving them the ultimate choice over that is massive. And then accepting that. And I think, because that's dignity, right? And the number one concern I have seen among people who are older is they're worried about losing their dignity in the eyes of themselves and the eyes of other people. So give them that as much as you can. And then this one is important for me, and I talk about it a lot with my family. The importance of presence, being present over what are we all going to do, right? My family likes to do stuff. They like to plan stuff, right? Ever since my niece and nephew were young, when they're coming out, we got to do this, this, and this. And on this day, we'll do this. And on this day, we're cooking these meals and cooking these meals. And I get all of that, right? I get all of that. At the same time, I'm always the one always saying, how about we make sure in all of this that we're really connecting? Because that presence matters, right? A few weeks ago, I had an opportunity to spend a few days with my mom, just me and her. And we didn't do much, but one of the things I really wanted to do was have some conversations with her. I asked her about some things that were going on in the world and her opinion, and she talked about them. Then I brought her in on a couple things going on with me personally that I wanted her feedback on. And first of all, she was surprised that I asked. And second, she was delighted that I asked. And third, what she gave me was gold.
Yeah.
Not just because it was good advice and good perspective, but I learned so much about my mom on how she viewed these particular things
really
that I never asked her about before.
Yeah.
And we ended up, and at the end of those few days, I got home. I texted her. I said, I'm home. And she said, I had a wonderful time just being able to talk to you that much. And I said, me too, Mom. It was great. And I really valued it. And it showed me, okay, my mom is still on it, right? Her life might be a little different, than it used to be, but man, she is still on it. And she's got a lot to offer me. And if she has a lot to offer me, she has a lot to offer other people. So what else comes up?
I kind of reflected a little bit on this earlier, but about, like I said, I do puzzles with my mom.
So cool.
Or like little arts and crafts and whatnot. I do have one memory, and it wasn't me doing this with her, but it was so cute. It's like just one of those type of moments, right? I'm like on the phone with my mom and I'm talking with her and she's got me on loudspeaker. She always has me like, I don't know why she does that, but she does. And we're trying to have a conversation and I hear like all this noise in the background and I'm like, Mom, like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm building a Lego with your dad and I'm trying to look for a little part. And so she's like, I'm like stirring around. She takes the little pieces and puts them in bowls so she doesn't lose them on the floor.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh, I'm like looking for the one piece I need. Like, are you paying attention to me or are you building the Lego? It was just so funny. She was so focused on this thing
You know what?
she's doing.
I'm going to say this right out loud on the air so she can hear it. I fully support that Lego approach.
Yeah.
150%.
So cute.
I hear you. Put them in little bowls.
Yes.
Little sections so
Yeah.
you know where they are. By
Yeah.
color.
Yes, that's what she did. Yeah, there's all
Absolutely.
sorted by color. So she's like fishing around in a bowl.
Yeah. Don't let the Lego work you. Work the Lego.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in that same vein of like doing little things with them, because as you're doing it, yes, you're focusing on this, but you're also having conversation and, you know, the conversation is going to flow and it's probably not going to be awkward. It's going to be great because there's no pressure on it. Your focus isn't entirely on each other and a topic.
Right. I love that.
Thanks.
I love that. One that you hear a lot is, you know, some people say that I should sit down and get all these recorded, right? Get these stories from Grandpa recorded. That's a really good one if you can do it. And actually, if you're interested in that, Ashley and I both know people who do a really good job of recording those kinds of things and can turn them into really cool videos and stuff. We both know several people who can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So please, if you're interested in that, please reach out to us and we'd be happy to connect you to them because it can be a really cool thing, right? Those things. But if you're not able to do that or in lieu of that or in the process of that, really introspective questions, asking them things like, what has surprised you about your life? You might get some really interesting answers, right?
They should get that game by Esther Perel that we played and play it.
Yes.
With the
Where
older
shall we
folks.
begin? Yes, that'd be a
They
really
have some
great one.
really interesting.
That'd be a great one. You know, there's other things too. It's funny. I hear people my age and others with older parents who complain about having to teach them technology. You know what's interesting about that? Study after study is now showing that for older people, them learning those technological things so they can stay better connected with people is actually helping their brains, not harming them. So we have the experience of younger that those things can harm us because of our rapid consumption. For them, they're avenues to connect and keep things glued together. It's actually better for their brains. So, and my dad does Sudoku on his phone every day and looks everything up on his phone every day. And my mom has a coloring app that she hits and works on every single day. And I encourage that. Keep going, right? I wish they didn't do it when I was having a conversation with them. But,
Right.
you know,
You're like, yeah, hello.
Yeah, right.
Yoo-hoo.
What else for you? Anything else that...
You know, just, I mean, I guess all things I kind of reflect on earlier, like do small active things, like go for a walk. We started doing this as a family. We would do a walk on Christmas Day together. We'd get all the dogs and like all the animals.
It was a whole thing.
It's like a whole zoo walking down the street. We get all our animals together and the family, and we started doing this. Like if the weather is, you know, decent enough that they can go out. My mom also has really severe asthma. But go out for walks and do things out like something like that, or go to their favorite little cafe, restaurant, whatnot, and help them still enjoy and have the opportunities to have those moments, because maybe they don't drive as much anymore, and they maybe loved going to the cafe and having pancakes and hot cocoa with sprinkles and whipped cream. And if you're the one that gets them there, wouldn't you want to give them that opportunity?
Particularly if it's something that you enjoy too, which I happen to know on the sprinkles and hot chocolate and whipped cream front, that aligns for you.
I did that with my grandpa when he was still alive and I was much younger. Okay. It's a very good memory.
Yeah. That's also something you took a photo of recently.
I did.
And showed,
if you guys stalk me on the gram.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the one final one that I'll put in, we only have so much time, is really ask them to teach you a skill.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be good.
Something, right? Yeah. Show me how to cook so-and-so's famous recipe, or, you know, a craft that they do, a song, something that communicates to them. You have something vital still to give that I want to know about.
Well, and it
That's
keeps
powerful.
their legacy going a little bit if they can pass on something
Right,
too.
right. Well,
Like
and
that.
there's more we can discuss here. We didn't get to everything. So what I'm going to do is I will post on our social media as well as on our YouTube channel a few other things that we wanted to talk about with this, because I think it's an important subject to continue, particularly some pitfalls that we didn't have time to get into those. But go ahead and go over to our YouTube page and on social media, particularly Instagram, and follow us if you don't already. And I'll post some stuff there, a few of these points, so you can apply those as well. So how's that sound to you?
I like it.
Okay, cool. Thanks for bringing this in, Ashley. This was
Thank
really good.
you for entertaining the topic.
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. We hope it was all beneficial for you out there. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Staying Power. Remember, you can get this as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Our YouTube channel has a ton of other content. You can also find us at 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle. There has all the ways you can communicate with us. stayingpowershow@gmail.com, as well as direct messaging. We'd love to hear from you. We will be back next week with another episode on another way in which you can build a better life. And we look forward to seeing you. I am JD.
And I'm Ashley.
And we will see you soon. Thanks so much.